I think we need to be aware of what's happening so that we can better understand, first of all, the world, then maybe your kids. Stay relevant.
Hitting a nerve here, Martha, but I hear you.
Yeah. So, woke fishing is one that you introduced to me.
Wait. What is it?
Woke fishing.
Woke fishing.
Relative to relationship. I won't say sex necessarily, but relationships.
Woke
and
fishing.
Then people will call themselves woke.
You know woke.
Actually,
like being woke.
No,
bless your heart.
Really old, right? I feel really old right now. Can someone fill me in?
Hello and welcome to the Forties Formula, your go-to place for insightful discussions on navigating your 40s and thriving in this transformative decade.
We're your hosts, Amanda and Jasmin, two women that are passionate about exploring the challenges and adventures that come with turning 40 and what lies ahead.
When I was looking at you on Instagram, things that draw me right away to your profile, right? Becoming a masterful lover and passion unleashed. And I was like, oh, this girl is sexy personified. And it made me just think like, okay, this is someone who is not afraid to talk to women about owning their sexuality. This is someone who's not afraid to, put the woman in the driver's seat when it comes to sexuality. And I think that's a perspective that we really need here on the 40s Formula. So thank you for joining us.
Oh, thank you.
We're really happy that you're here. Can you tell us a bit about what unique perspectives you bring to your field, right? Clinical sexology and relationship counseling. How do you do it differently?
I think it's just like any work. You bring all of yourself to it. The unique perspective, I guess, would be I see myself as a down-to-earth, practical kind of a person. And when I first started my practice, I would say, because of lack of experience, a lot of it was just textbook. And after a while, I realized it just doesn't work. I bring all of myself. You have to be on your A game. You have to be relatable, and I do share my personal stories. As a counselor, we are advised to be very aware of too much self-disclosure.
Sure.
But because of my subject matter, it's just impossible to not talk about myself a little bit, only when it serves my client. So it's not like we share things because we want to take up time, but we want to get them to understand our topic that we're talking about using stories, because stories cut through all kinds of barriers. Also, a lot of my clients, they are sexually inhibited, they are sexually inexperienced, and so sometimes by sharing stories, it's stories that they never heard of, and also people don't talk about sex. So I actually see myself as a role model of sorts, because I do love sex. I'm very positive about it, and this is very different from what they are exposed to.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And I think, someone coming from a non-Asian culture now living a decade in an Asian culture, it is to the max here in terms of like the modesty and not talking about sex and being sexually inhibited. I mean, that I feel like describes a great deal of what I at least experienced in Singapore. Do you think that Singapore is unique compared to other places or other clients that you work with?
Yeah, I think that because I see Singapore as a little bit like New York, although New York is so much more diversified. So you get a little bit of everything, and it's very difficult to put your pulse on what Singaporeans are like per se, because there's so many types of Singaporeans. But I have to say the most inhibited people come to me. And I do have a lot of clients who choose to wait until marriage to have sex, both of them. And they say, it's because we're Asians. So it is definitely very much the way they were brought up, the culture, the societal messages that we are getting that is influencing how people behave. But I think a lot of Singaporeans are changing because they do question themselves. We are one of the most westernized countries in Asia. Like, we are one of the most educated. Why are we still behaving like this towards sex? So I do see a lot of changes that has happened, especially in the last 5 years in Singapore, with a lot of different people coming forward, wanting to be this or that influencer and whatnot. So yes, it's changing. It's good to have more dialogue, and it is definitely more positive.
Do you tend to find you get older couples maybe who haven't had a relationship with each other for a long time trying to reignite something? So I have a client who's probably in her 50s, and she got asked about her sexual health, and she was just like, well, it's been a while, and she doesn't know how to, because they haven't had that kind of intimacy, she doesn't know how to sort of bring it up. How can someone approach that topic with their partner? Like, it's been a few years. How can you sort of reignite that passion again?
Yes, I do work with a lot of clients in long-term committed relationship. They can be in sexless marriages for some time, and maybe they're just busy with their lives. So it is really delicate to talk about something like this when it's become like this kind of big elephant in the room, and it becomes more of a topic that they just tiptoe around. So it is really important to approach it with sensitivity. So I often just ask them to start by expressing what they're feeling, just very gently to their partner. And it's not so easy to reignite something when both parties are not willing to put in the effort, because you can try things that are quite cliche, like put on lingerie. And I have many people who put on lingerie and just prance around the room and then get angry that it doesn't work.
Okay.
But that's just textbook,
Yeah.
It needs to be consensual. And they also need to know, like, what are you doing this for? Like, are you wearing the lingerie, or is the lingerie wearing you? So it also has to do with your confidence and communication, like the intention behind it, so that your partner knows, okay, this is kind of what you have in mind, versus like just jumping onto them in that way. It can also feel very violating.
Yeah. And I think that's what's important to understand about what you would do as a clinical sexologist is not only see what's happening in the sexual relationship, right, but understanding what they're trying to communicate to their partner, right? Because she might have put on the lingerie thinking this is so obvious what I'm communicating, and it just falls on deaf ears because the other partner doesn't understand.
That's the issue with our culture as well, because a lot of them are not comfortable talking about sex, so they hint about it. And I have so many people say, I didn't get it. Oh, were you trying to do that? I didn't know. Yeah. And then they get upset with each other for the weirdest reasons.
Yeah, I think that's the thing. I think men don't understand hints. Like, if you want something, you just got to do it, I think, sometimes, haven't you?
Yeah, the subtleties are often lost, I feel, between the sexes.
Yes, so in my work, I find myself becoming some kind of a translator because they don't understand each other. And so it may seem like, I said the exact same thing, but when I paraphrase it, they understand. Yeah. So I'm a translator, I'm an interpreter, I'm a mediator, I am an educator, I'm a teacher. So many different hats. So I like it because our work is so dynamic, and we do have to be very sensitive with what people are like and how they are feeling. So I use a lot of my intuition. Like, no two clients are the same, even though they can be very similar, and I have a lot of experience working with different couples and getting an idea of the possible differences, but still everyone is still different. Yeah.
So when you have somebody who you're saying start up a conversation with your partner, but if they come from quite a modest background, they don't want to turn around and say, I'm in the mood. What would be the correct way, or the easiest way to start that conversation? I think sometimes it might be like, I don't know, I'm feeling randy. What would you say?
Yeah. I do have clients who are very shy about it. So we talk through this during sessions, either with them or as a couple. How would you like your partner to approach you? I'll get them to kind of brainstorm. And something as simple as text them. You can text them and say, have some code words. So if you are afraid of speaking directly, it can be indirect still, but you need to be clear. So something like, maybe we can have some private time after we put the kids to bed, things like that.
That sounds quite easy.
Sexy texty. Well, and this brings me to one of the questions I'm dying to ask you, right? So I want to throw down some sexy texty because I'm very cool still here at, almost age 41. But there is now new language around sex and dating. This is not the old, kind of sexting that maybe we had back in the 90s with our Blackberries. Like, talk to me about what are these new Gen Z lingos for sex, and is there even a place for that type of talk within our, 40 plus community?
Of course, I think we need to be aware of what's happening so that we can better understand, first of all, the world, then maybe your kids. Stay relevant.
Hitting a nerve here, Martha, but I hear you.
Yeah. So, woke fishing is one that you introduced
fishing.
to me.
Wait, what is it?
Woke fishing.
Woke fishing.
Okay, pop quiz, Jasmine. What do you think that possibly is?
Woke fishing.
Okay, because I do know now what it is because I watch your thing. Tell me what you think that is.
I have absolutely no idea. Woke fishing. What the hell?
Like what could, relative to relationship? I won't say sex necessarily, but relationships.
Woke
and
fishing.
then
people will call themselves woke.
Woke.
Actually,
like being woke.
No.
Bless your heart.
Really old right. I feel really old right now. Can someone fill me in?
Being woke is being, I would say, excessively politically correct.
Oh, okay.
So very, aware of kind of what, pronouns to use and what eco-consciousness.
That's definitely not me.
Yeah. So woke fishing, I'll let you explain it.
Yeah, woke fishing is when you pretend to be woke to get more partners, to get laid.
To get laid.
Wow.
Yeah. And
I'm definitely not there.
And how about NATO dating or NAT? Is it NATO? NATO?
Yeah, I believe it's no action, all talk or something.
Yeah.
Oh my. Okay. Wow.
There's like all
is there
these
like a dictionary? Because I feel like I need to up my lingo.
Yeah. Martha's Instagram is dictionary number one.
Okay.
But there are different terms that I think most of us should know. Things like ghosting,
ghosting. I know that one.
So you're not as old as you think.
No,
flooding.
No, don't know that one.
Flooding. What is that one?
Flooding is when your partner is interested in you and trying to give you all kinds of attention very quickly.
But you kind of don't want, like, it's like you're over.
Too much.
Love bombing.
love bombing.
I meant love bombing.
I've had love bombing.
Flooding is when they talk too much.
How interesting.
I bet Paul knows
is this all in
don't
text? Is this in text or is this like just a general thing? Like they come at you too much. Like it doesn't necessarily, it's not exclusive to the phone communication. It could be also in person.
Yeah, gifts, attention, so many things. I think that's their way to super express the relationship so that they can get what they want. And these people may have narcissistic tendencies where they then play on it by withdrawing their affection.
Interesting. Okay. So that can be kind of symbolic of a pattern perhaps that you should be aware of. Well, so that kind of backs it up then. So besides obviously, helping us understand Gen Z lingo and, helping the couples that you work with, what's a day in the life for you? So when you wake up in the morning, what is a clinical sexologist doing with her day? And I expect sex to be in there somewhere. No pressure.
Amanda, I just discovered this super awesome, good for your health, supports your gut and immune system drink.
Okay, tell me more.
Akisi Tropical. Just dilute it in some sparkling water and it tastes like you're sitting in the sun on an island far away.
Oh, and I actually love their new berry flavor too. It has the trifecta, pre, post, and probiotics. Akisi's science-forward approach means that I'm getting all the good stuff without any of the nasties, and I can enjoy it any time of day.
And the best thing, you can get 15% off full-priced items and free delivery when you use code Forties for any purchase in Singapore from their website, akisiwellness.com.
Don't forget to try their elderberry boost and probiotic base products, which are actually perfect for babies too. And now, back to the conversation.
Yeah, every day is different depending on what I have going on. Like today, I have a podcast, then I have a meeting, then I have, I'm being interviewed to be a court witness.
Oh.
Yeah.
Wow.
And different things. Then I have social time. So I think the busiest days will be the weekends for me, where I have like lots of clients one after another. So what I try to do is I try to group my activities like what y'all do as well in your life. You try to group it because once you're in the flow, it's much easier. Even though you like I can have anywhere between 1 to 7 clients in a day, but you group them and then you just kind of go with the flow.
Yeah. And I think, one of the reasons that we wanted to have you on the podcast today was because, the clients that you are working with on the weekends that you're seeing, back to back, you expressed that you do a lot of work with midlife women, right? And women that are going through perimenopause and menopausal changes. Can you talk to us about your participation in the Midlife Sex Festival and what that was like?
Okay, it was really about perimenopause and menopause, because this is the topic that Dr. Claire was interested in. So Dr. Claire is an oncologist, gynae, and because of my work with Singapore Cancer Society, I'm their sexologist, so I do have quite a number of clients who have cancer, breast cancer, prostate cancer, different kinds of cancer. So they would go into menopause. And so that's that intersection. So I did a session on that. But they had other things as well, like nutrition and other topics.
What are the common, I don't want to say complaints, let's say presenting issues that you're seeing from women in their 40s? Like when you have that target age group, what are the reasons they're coming to see you?
Well, because for me, I only approach it from the perspective of sex. So for them, it usually is a low sex drive or no sex drive, and dryness, painful sex. So usually I pretty much cover the same things again and again, like what they can do, using lubricants, vaginal moisturizer, going to a doctor for maybe HRT. I don't necessarily am against it, because I think it's more about having an educated decision, informed decision about the different options so that you have the best quality of life possible.
Have you had clients where you're thinking, okay, maybe this woman needs HRT to kind of reignite her sex drive. She goes and does it, and then it works? Like where it's like, wow, that was really the missing link?
Yes, of course. But I've also met people who have gone on HRT, testosterone replacement therapy, and it also doesn't work for them, because sex is so much more than just physical. It has a lot to do with your mind-body connection, the way you think about sex, the way you feel about yourself, the way you relate with your partner, so many different dimensions. So I don't focus so much on the medical side, because I'm not a medical doctor. What I do is I focus very much on how they think, how they feel, and how their relationship is like.
I feel like stress seems to be one of the big sort of interplays when it comes to how your relationship is with your partner. Like a man will come home, and if he's stressed, he has sex, he might feel better. But a woman comes home, if she's stressed, she doesn't want to have sex. So how do you sort of incorporate that into your practice so that people feel that, you know, they're still having a meaningful relationship, but, you know, they're not feeling obliged to serve the other partner almost?
I think you're so right, because this happens all the time. They don't get it. It's like a duck and chicken talking, you know. They just don't get each other. So I have to kind of step in and kind of smooth things out a little bit and try to get them to understand one another. So it can be challenging. It is really important to also teach them around consent, because just because you are married, it doesn't mean that you have to give sex every single time your partner asks for it. So the amount of pressure, the amount of guilt, and also the amount of abuse that actually is happening, where there's these tantrums that are being thrown, and even threat of violence. So it is really, really scary for women. So I'm not sure like whether there's really like a best way to navigate this. I think it's different for different people, because it really depends on how understanding your partner is willing to be. And I think it's really important to be an advocate of yourself, to use stories or analogies to describe what you're feeling, so that your partner has more empathy. Because a lot of people, they just say no, and they don't say why, and then they say no all the time, and then the partner tries different things, and it's always a no. So we also have to understand the way that they're thinking, which is how like what can I do to make things better. I think a lot of women just don't ask for what can make things better. Yeah. They just say no.
Yeah. And I think, you know, this can be a little bit TMI, so get ready, everybody. And if you are my husband listening, turn it off. I think an example of that, right, was going through childbirth, right? And for the first time ever, I did not want my husband anywhere near my breasts. I was like, this is literally like barbed wire. Like, you cannot touch. And it was so hard for him to wrap his mind around the fact that something that was like immediately pleasurable before was so much the opposite now, because men will never experience that. Where something that was pleasurable for them, it just turns off and changes
your
entirely.
body goes through changes because of the hormones, and also your breastfeeding. It's overstimulated, and it just feels, it's. I have clients who say that, they feel like they need something for themselves.
Yeah, exactly.
And it's really, really okay. You just need to be able to better explain that to them.
Yeah. And that's the thing. And so now I want to give him a shout out now, if he is still listening, is that then, he was very receptive to the understanding that it's temporary for me. It's obviously related to this thing called breastfeeding. It's not you. And that, for now, we have to explore different ways. And he was super open to that. But I think the conversation at first was hard and scary. And having someone like you there in the room, I could see how that could really help couples negotiate those conversations that feel weird.
Hey, Amanda, picture this. You're in your 40s.
I am.
You're working, you're raising kids, you're breastfeeding, and you're hungry.
That sounds about right.
But you're not going to feed yourself and your family any old crap.
No, that's actually why we use the Meat Club. The Meat Club is the premier source for top quality Australia and New Zealand produce right here in Singapore.
And if you're tired of the endless struggle of meal planning, guess what? The Meat Club subscription service delivers top quality meat direct to your door.
And we have a little treat for our listeners. As a new customer, you can get $12 off with the discount code TFF12 with no minimum spend. Discounts are only valid, though, through the website, themeatclub.com.sg.
And for more updates, recipes, and special offers, don't forget to follow the Meat Club on Instagram at themeatclubsg. Now back to the chat.
Yeah, and my clients are amazed, and I'm also amazed how much they start to review as they feel safe, because a lot of times they start talking to each other and they get interrupted and they get emotional.
Yeah.
So when they have someone like me who's like a mediator, making sure that both parties gets to say both sides of their story, then it becomes much clearer. So they actually say, just one session with me actually saves them like years of possible grief.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And I think, so the topic of breastfeeding and breasts and stuff, that's something that is kind of on the woman, right? The onus is on us to talk about it, because the men would never know that it was happening. But what I love about your work is that you also go in deep on some of the male issues, like premature ejaculation, male infertility, male chauvinism, which is obviously something that can come between the ability to sexually communicate correctly. How do you kind of get men talking? Because I think that's the tough one.
Yeah. So the thing is, I was actually surprised when I started my practice that I actually, for a start, had more men than women, because a lot of men actually feel comfortable with women. They projected that quality onto me, thinking that, I'm going to be, very gentle with them. Although over the years, yes.
Show them, Martha.
Over the years, I have learned to be more gentle, for sure, because I really get that not everybody sees life the way I see it. Yes, so I very soon realized that even though I actually feel quite unsafe putting myself out there working with men and women, it was really important, because I cannot, in all fairness, say that I love women and I want to help women, and then I don't help their partner. So I actually keep working with the men, because I also realized that there are men who are being abused and being badly treated by their partners, and they needed to find voice and get support as well. So over the years, I really have become an advocate of men, because they are precious, they are beautiful, they take a lot of pride in providing, in being the hero, and I think there's a lot of miscommunication happening with couples where they just don't understand each other. They are trying to express their love, but are not able to understand. So it's really important to get to the root of it for a lot of them.
I think that's the thing, isn't it? You can't help one side of the couple. You need to be able to help both, because otherwise then, you might have a female who'll be like, right, I'm ready to go have sex. But if the guy is not quite ready, then it's only 50% of the equation, and you still don't have that balance that you need. What I wanted to actually ask was that do you find sort of now you have women who have this sort of romanticized, romantic comedy idea of what love and sex and relationship is like? Then you have men who sort of watch porn and have their idea of what, you know, sex should be like. Is there almost like a mismatch between the two in terms of what they're expecting from their sexual relationship?
Definitely. I think we are very much influenced by the media, by the porn we watch. So it is happening. So this is where I come in and let them know this is what men think, this is what women think, this is how you communicate with a man. One of the tips about speaking with your partner who is a man is never ever raise your voice, never ever shout. I think it really affects them a lot more than women realize. And I think a lot of women also think that just because your partner looks like they are not listening or your partner seems to have a poker face, that it didn't get into your partner. But in reality, they can have a very sensitive soul. And so they do not realize how much damage they are doing to their partner through the repetition, the nagging, the flooding, so this is one of the biggest one that I keep seeing women doing.
Yeah. And I can imagine that. I mean, I definitely have been guilty of losing my shit on my partner before. And I can tell that it wounds him for like much longer, than I would intend. So.
Yeah, much longer than if it had been done to you.
Yes, correct. Exactly. Oh, yeah. No worries. Rolls off my back. No, I'm just kidding. But
I feel
yeah,
like I'm
you're
the
right.
opposite, though.
Really?
If I get upset by him, I do the silent treatment. Like, I can't talk. I'm just like, I go quiet. And I think that affects him even more because it's like, oh, shit, she's not talking. What have I done?
Yeah.
Yeah, opposites attract.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
you will often find partners, couples who have these kinds of tendencies because one person in the relationship needs more space.
Yeah.
Yeah, that makes total sense. How do you ensure that when your clients are with you, that they have safety and they have privacy? Because I do think that like one of the reasons that maybe people don't seek out help is because they think it'll get out, right? The conversation will somehow leak. How do you ensure safety and privacy for your folks?
So the thing is, people always assume, or maybe I don't know why. The thing is, as counselors, we do have our code of ethics. We have to ensure privacy, confidentiality of our clients, which is the reason why whenever the media contacts me, I almost never share any stories of my clients, but I can talk about them in general. So never a specific client. They do worry about it, but actually we have to abide by our code of ethics as counselors. So I'm not sure what I can say to convince people.
Yeah.
This is one of the reasons why I put out a lot of content about my work, so that people can become more informed and feel safer about getting support. Because it's such a personal, private topic. So unfortunately, I am actually seeing a lot of people having an issue for a very, very long time and really on the verge of divorce, separation. And sometimes it's too little, too late.
Yeah.
Because they just don't want to try anymore.
Talking about separation and divorce, some couples may sort of experience infidelity, especially if, the husband has needs that are not being satisfied, I guess. And I read actually on one of the expat women forum groups that her husband cheated on her and she actually still wanted to remain in the relationship. How can you come back from that? So if there has been infidelity, how can you come back from that experience to sort of maybe even make your sex life stronger? Is there a way? Can you come back from it?
Yeah, so actually cheating is much more common than people think, and actually a lot more people than we think actually choose to stay in the marriage. And what happens, I notice, is a lot of men, they just want to move on. If they want cheating, they just want to move on. They just want the partner to forget about it. If this happens, you just repress your emotions. Actually, it comes out in other ways. And then the body actually does not want to have sex. So it's really important to get to the root of why actually did it happen, and can you get stronger because of it, rather than let this tear you apart. And often there are multiple reasons why this happened. And so to be able to admit a lot of times it's emotional neglect. A lot of times it's being emotionally unavailable. So it's important to talk about those things. So it's not as simple as, let's just have sex quickly.
Yeah.
We need to address the underlying issues. You can have sex and then you think that you are recovered or whatever, but actually that's not the case.
And do you think that seeing a sexologist, for example, is kind of a necessary step for couples that have had infidelity?
Yeah, I think we can definitely help, because I have experience helping clients to unpack all this and put in the foundational blocks again, so that the relationship gets stronger and even better. It is also important to process your emotions, separate off your partner who cheated on you, because a lot of times they just feel so much anger, rage, and injustice, and they want revenge. And sometimes it's not necessarily the best thing to keep renting on at your partner, because they get so much of it, and they start asking themselves, do I even really want to work at it? It just seems so hopeless.
So women have obviously roughly a 28-day cycle. So their hormones do really affect their sex drive and usually sort of peak in the middle of the cycle, whereas men have almost like a 24-hour hormonal cycle where, they probably want to have sex every day.
Yeah.
How do you manage that sort of interplay then between couples who, maybe only feel like having sex maybe 2 or 3 times out of the month in comparison to the men who want to have sex all the time, and they think that their wives are rejecting them because they're not into it? Like how can you sort of explain that to couples?
Yeah, I think it's not true that men want sex all the time. A lot of times they want what sex makes them feel, which is the closeness, the intimacy, the feeling of being desired. So even when you don't feel like having sex, it's really important to understand where your partner is coming from. Is it a physical need or is it an emotional need? Being able to communicate how horny are you, and then be able to navigate compromises or options like how about I watch you masturbate tonight, or how about I give you a hand job instead, or can we take out the toys? Like there are actually many options that we can have. I think a lot of people actually, if they could, they would like to have more sex than they are. It's a real thing that we are tired, we are stressed, we're exhausted. There are life challenges involved. So it's really important to have a partner who is actually engaged in the family life, instead of a partner who hides in the study room and sulks and masturbates to porn. I have had partners discover that their partner is masturbating to porn, and then the partner say, what do you expect? What was happening? Look at what you're doing. Look at how much you are not talking to me. Look at you, how you're rejecting me. What do you think what do you think was happening?
Yeah.
So a lot of women just really focus on the kids, and they sometimes don't wake up until it's too late.
Yeah. I like that text idea, though. How horny are you? Scale,
Yes,
1 to
1 to
10.
10.
I'm taking notes for my sexy text.
So I heard on another podcast actually that women need to sort of feel arousal usually by engaging in the act, whereas it takes them a bit of time to sort of get into it, whereas men, I think, can sort of, I guess, turn it on a lot quicker. So how can you take that step? So, like, for example, would it be like just maybe kissing her neck and then she might be like, oh, actually, I am a bit horny? Or, like, is that something that you would recommend to the clients? Like, maybe try and see if it leads somewhere? Or do you feel like a conversation should come first? But then if a conversation does come first, maybe the lady or the wife or the woman might not feel into the mood until she gets into the act. I don't know if my question makes sense.
Yeah, it makes sense. So there's this thing called spontaneous versus a responsive sexual desire. So spontaneous people, I would describe like a microwave. Like they get they get aroused much more quickly. And then people with a responsive sexual desire, they need more stimulation, and it needs to be some kind of a physical stimulation. What happens with a lot of people is they're tired, so they're mentally not even receptive to that. And so it's really important to take care of your energy, because your energy is your life force energy, and it actually affects everything. And unfortunately, a lot of women are not very good at managing their time or their energy, and so they don't have any energy left for sex. So it's really important to practice self-care. And even then, it's also the openness to trying. I have had clients, I know of many people who actually say, I don't feel like it, don't touch me. So they are not even open to that possibility of my body needs some time to respond. Another thing is that the way men and women think about sex are really very different, because men think of sex as a goal. They think of it like, what's the point of trying if I am not guaranteed the results? How can you say sex is a journey and is a process and you're going to stop? Then why would I even want to start something that I can't end? So the way men and women think of it is indeed very different. So it's really about educating each other, where the other person is coming at, and having agreements that, okay, today we'll try it this way and today we'll try it your way. So I'm definitely not someone who is for one way. I think that we need to be open to different ways and different ways of living life and doing things. But some people are really do much better with routine and creatures of habit. So it can be very challenging, especially for men who have that tendency.
Yeah. And I think, it's funny, as a coach, right? I think about outcome goals versus process goals, right? And so when you're too outcome oriented, it can actually stop the process from happening, right? And that's kind of what you're describing here with some of the ways.
And a lot of women want to enjoy the process, and a lot of men do well with having clear outcomes. So this is one of the reasons why coaching needs to feel good for women.
Yeah, darn right. Well, what do you think? So we've talked about kind of what it takes to get into sex, how you communicate with your partner about sex. What are some of the taboos, though, that people are still not ready to talk about?
I think we talked about low sex drive and not wanting to have sex. I think a lot of people have difficulties to basically speak up.
And say, like, hey, I'm not having sex. Like, here's the reality.
And then, or hint, and then, like, don't say why, and things like that. So... Yeah.
I mean, I always think of like Sex and the City, right? Set in the American context, right? Where it's like these four women that incessantly talk about sex with each other, with other people. One of them's writing a column about it, right? Like, it's like very, very out there. Is that community a myth in Singapore? Are there women out there talking about sex?
I think the younger generation, there are some groups trying to form this kind of communities. I'm also trying to form one. I signed a contract with Sex Positive World in US, so I'm trying to start a Sex Positive World community in Singapore.
Tell us about that. What does that mean?
Yeah, so basically I wanted to create a community where people have certain training around consent and boundaries, and we are just a group of people who know that sex is a positive thing, and we want to have positive attitudes about sex and not judge other people for whatever lifestyle that they choose to be in, or whatever sexual activities they choose to be in. And so it's like an inclusive community where it's like a social club that I'm trying to create, where people feel safe. Because I think as you get older, you lose friends to marriage, to babies, and people leave, people die, all these things. And so sometimes you get lonely and you don't know like how to make friends or where to go and make friends who have certain guidelines of basically respect. So I wanted to create this social club for that reason. So I think there are different kinds of communities popping up here and there, different support groups, different like reading circle, whatnot. I think it's all good because different people vibe with different activities and things.
Yeah, sexy book club. That's a good idea.
Yeah. I was just wondering, do you find that especially sort of in the Asian culture in Singapore, it's almost like taboo if you are having sex, and then taboo if you're not having sex, and you can't win.
Yes. Which is the reason why I often get asked like, what's the normal frequency of sex?
Yeah. What is the normal frequency?
What is a healthy frequency? I think it's really up to the individual. If there's no distress, then there's no issue. A lot of times it is because one person in the relationship is not happy, and sometimes if your partner wants to have a lot more sex than the other person, you also have to look at is this like is this really because they have a high sex drive, or is it because they have other challenges going on, like clients with other mental health issues like depression or ADHD or OCD or things like that, that actually may cause them to want to put that onto their partner.
Let's say that you've got a couple who are both open to communicating with each other. What would you say are your top 3 tips to really sort of get it all going off? Like, what would you recommend?
Well, if they are really open to everything, it would be good to have at least some time to talk about, can you give me feedback about the way we are communicating with each other? I think a lot of couples talk, they communicate, they think they communicate well, but pretty much every single couple that I've worked with, they never ask for feedback about the way they are communicating with each other. That would be the first one. Is there a way that I can talk to you in a way that will work better for you? Would be the first. Then the second would be maybe come up with a sex bucket list. Come up with your desires. What are some of the things that you've always wanted to try, haven't had a chance to try? Why are we waiting? At what point can we make some time for these things to happen? What can we do to make things happen? And maybe you need to save money to make some of these things happen. But if you don't start talking about it, then of course it will never happen.
Yeah, put pen to paper.
The third one is always be open-minded, be curious, and maybe learn together. I know of people who are like, oh yeah, send their partner to me for this or that workshop, but it really is a missed opportunity if they don't attend it together, because they can talk about what they learn, and then they can continue processing it even after the workshop, which is not possible if only one person attends it.
Yeah, because then you spend half the time just talking about what happened at the workshop before you can even get to how it applies to your relationship.
What happened at the workshop that you were not there at.
Yeah, that you were not there at, exactly. That I'm paraphrasing probably quite terribly for you.
Just going back to that sex bucket list, it reminds me of this meme I saw on Instagram. It was, if you could have, let's make a list of the 5 people we're allowed to have sex with and you won't object to. So the woman puts down, I don't know, like Johnny Depp, Brad Pitt, and George Clooney and a few other famous people. And then the husband puts down her sister, her best friend. So
beware, take caution with the sex bucket list, listeners. This may not turn out as you want. No. Well, so we are running out of time here, Dr. Martha, and we've loved having you on. And the question that we ask each and every one of our guests, right, and coming from your area of expertise, what is your 40s formula? What are you telling women in their 40s about what you do to help them thrive and feel best in this decade?
I think the first thing I would say for women in their 40s, and I am in my 40s, I'm 48.
Wow, you look amazing.
Yeah, oh my gosh.
It helps when you haven't had kids.
Yeah, fair enough. Fair point, listeners. Okay, judge us less harshly.
Okay, so the first one is don't be embarrassed to get things to help you with your sex life. Whether it's lubricants, whether it's sex toys, don't be embarrassed with that, because we use devices to help us have an easier life. Why do we think it will be otherwise in this area in our life? I think that would be the biggest one. Then the next one is the moment you feel something is off with your body, first of all, be very aware. But the moment you feel something is different, something has shifted, something is affecting you, distressing you, get support sooner than later. I think this is why men live longer when they're married, because their wives are sensitive to their changes and watches out for them and nags at them, makes sure that they go to a doctor. But make sure you do that for yourself as well. Yeah, I think that would be the second one. The third one is, I cannot emphasize this enough, we give so much to people. It's really important that we take care of ourselves. I came across this YouTube video that said this, and it's kind of my favorite phrase at the moment. Men don't remember what you do for them. Men remember what you do for yourself.
That's lovely.
That is really, really helpful. And again, you said about getting the support you need. Give yourself the care that you need, and don't be ashamed about it, right? And I think that can apply to so many different areas of our 40s. So thank you so much for joining us today, Martha. It's been awesome talking to you.
Thanks for having me.
It's been great. Thank you. Guys, you know how much we love coffee. And if you want to show us some love, you can get us one.
Just visit buymeacoffee.com/the40s formula. Cheers.
Gizzy Man left us this review. All the episodes are making me fact check the supplements I'm taking. Love the detailed discussion with real life people talking about their experiences. Just makes it more interesting and relatable.
Thank you so much, Gizzy. We try to keep it real as much as possible here, and we are going to keep that real life discussion coming to you in our seasons to come. Before we go, please remember to hit subscribe and take a moment to support the Forties Formula by leaving a review on your favorite podcast platform.
Your reviews will help us to reach more people and allow us to continue to bring valuable content. It should only take a moment, and it's a free way for you to support the show.
You can also stay updated with the Forties Formula by following us on Instagram at the Forties Formula, all one word. We share behind-the-scenes insights, episode updates, and much more, so please be sure to hit that follow button.
We appreciate your time and support. Thank you for being part of this community, and we'll be back next week for more empowering conversations with inspiring guests.
Bye. How do you prefer? Do you prefer to be Dr. Lee, Dr. Martha Tara Lee, Dr. Martha Lee?
Doesn't matter.
Okay. I always feel this like the same with Cheryl. I was like, is it Cheryl Cam, Cheryl Com? I was like, I don't want to say the American accent is very Tara. So
because you would say Tara, I would say Tara, and I think that's the accent thing, isn't it?
It's totally the accent thing.
Doesn't matter.
Am I speaking too loud?
Are you Singaporean?
Okay.
So I do feel like my husband's Singaporean, right? And I do feel like Singaporeans are way more chill about getting mispronounced. That where like it terrifies me to think about mispronouncing a name. You know,
actually,
but my
don't
husband's
like
used to it every day.
So my son's name is Kyan. It's spelled Kyan, and everyone calls him Kian. And then I'm like, it's Ryan with a K. You know, like I'm constantly.
That's not bad though. That is very helpful.
Yeah. And then I feel like you need to correct somebody if it's being mispronounced. But he's just like, oh, it's fine. I'm like, Kian is not your name. Your name is Kyan.
Don't let them call you that.
I was formerly fat. You were formerly... Well, you're still not
formerly athletic.
Yeah,
True.
Still.
Formerly athletic and now on the decline.
Definitely not, no.